Hello, everyone. Hope today finds you doing well. This is Erin here, and I am here with Matt from Listing Mirror, who you guys are very used to, and then also Adam. How do you say your last name? Froelich?
Froelich. Yep,
Exactly right. I'm doing good here. From Amazon MCF. So we are so excited about this webinar today. Matt and I have a lot of questions for you if no one else has questions, but I am hopeful that others will have questions as well as we go through this content today. Thank you so much for joining us, first of all. If you
Happy
are
to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. If you are just joining us, please say hello in the comments section. Please use the comments heavily. It's super, super useful to get questions from you and to get your comments and any feedback that you might have. So good or bad, we like to hear it. I am just getting my screen sharing set up here. Okay. All right. You guys can see this? Everyone can see? Yep. Cool. All right. So today our topic at hand is the Amazon fulfillment experience automated for all of your e-commerce marketplaces. So what we have found, and especially I'm sure what Adam has found in his line of work, is that almost all Amazon sellers know about FBA, but they don't know, either they just don't know about the existence of MCF, or they just don't know how it works. So I am floored by the number of sellers I talk to on a daily basis that don't even know that MCF is a thing. I'll say, well, how are you going to be filling these orders? And they are like, well, of course I'll be filling them from my own warehouse. And I'm like, but you have Amazon FBA inventory. Why don't you want to fill your Etsy orders or your Shopify orders with MCF or with FBA inventory? And they're just like, what? You know, I've opened their eyes to something brand new. So we are really hopeful that the people that are here today are people who want to know more about this process, or maybe you have used it and you don't know a lot about it yourself. So come on, slides. All right. So as I already said, Erin, Adam here, and then Matt is functioning as our moderator today. So please add any questions that you have. I think between Matt and myself and the questions that will come in from our audience as well, we should have a pretty good Rolodex of questions to fire at you, Adam, to ask, just to kind of clarify and get exactly what all of these sellers need in order for them to move forward in filling their orders this way. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, and then you can just let me know if I'm not like flipping slides fast enough. You can just, sure, put your finger up or something, and we'll go for it. Go for it that way.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, sounds good. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. And thank you, Listing Mirror team, for hosting me. Little background on myself. I've been at Amazon a little over 4 years now, and 3 years of that has been spent on this MCF or multi-channel fulfillment team. So we've seen the team grow quite a bit since my time here. And I spent the first 2 years onboarding new sellers, so making sure MCF was a fit for them, and then helping them through the motions of onboarding. Usually with Listing Mirror, actually was my go-to at the time. And now in the last little over a year, I've been on our partnerships team. So I work with Listing Mirror and other connectivity providers to just enable MCF, make their customer base aware of the program, so on and so forth. So we can get into the first slide. So as many of you know, Amazon has spent over 20 years building one of the most robust fulfillment networks in the world. And Amazon became Amazon in part by offering customers free 2-day shipping for their orders. So customers trust that Amazon will deliver their purchased goods quickly and reliably, while merchants can take advantage of the competitive rates we offer. With rollouts that include robotic fulfillment centers and drone deliveries happening soon, Amazon continues to lead in supply chain innovation.
Drone deliveries, that sounds super exciting.
Yeah, I'm hoping we could tap into that.
Yeah,
for sure. So we've invested over $30 billion just since 2019 in our fulfillment network, which now spans over 200 fulfillment centers and has allowed us to ship items to customers in as fast as 1 day, or I'm even getting some same day orders now as well. And our vast network coverage ensures we have product located close to where customers are purchasing. And I'll talk a little bit more about the specifics of that coming up. So what is multi-channel fulfillment? So multi-channel fulfillment allows sellers to use the same fulfillment network that powers FBA to ship their orders further off Amazon channels, as Aaron teed up. So that could include your D2C website hosted on an ESP, or it could include a social media site or other third-party marketplaces where you sell. So this can allow you to offer fast, on-time fulfillment at an efficient cost to ensure customers are shipped their product with the speed and reliability that they expect. And we have businesses of all sizes, ranging from emerging brands to enterprise companies who are taking advantage of what MCF can offer today. Okay, so to go over some of the main benefits in more detail, you'll have the ability to offer customers fast, Prime-like ship speeds. If you're also an Amazon seller or have plans to be in the future and use Fulfilled by Amazon, that same pool of inventory will be used to ship through multi-channel fulfillment. And that's a huge plus for businesses, as it can offer increased supply chain efficiencies, as you'll only need to send your inventory to one location to handle the fulfillment for all your D2C channels. And actually recently, I don't have this number called out on our slide here, but we see that by using MCF in addition to FBA, it can have a positive impact on your Amazon business as well. Because if you're going to be sending more inventory in with us, then we'll have better coverage across our network and more customers will be able to buy your items in 1 day, in 2 days. So we see, let me get my number right. Amazon sellers who use both MCF and FBA have increased their Amazon.com sales revenue by an average of 38%. So by using both, you can have almost a 38% jump just in your Amazon business, not counting what you might see increased from your D2C or other marketplace channels as well.
Yeah, those are some pretty stunning numbers, I think. So I think that's exciting for people to hear about.
Yeah, and we're excited to be able to make that claim. Our team was working hard to do the research that went into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to our third bullet point, MCF offers simple, predictable pricing that allows you to calculate what your shipping costs will be regardless of customer address. So our flat rate pricing comes with no hidden fees, so you can be confident what you will be paying and then what you should charge your customers for shipping as well. Mm-hmm. And I could drop a link to our pricing in the chat when I have a moment. And then MCF also offers direct integrations with all the popular website platforms. This is where Listing Mirror will come in, as they're going to be that connection between Amazon MCF and all your different sales channels where you sell today. And then MCF can also provide delivery promise dates that can be displayed to customers. As we see, that's a conversion uplift driver if a customer knows exactly when they can expect their order. And then to go over some newer launches that we had in 2021, I guess it's not as new at this point. MCF launched the ability to ship using blank brown boxes, and also the ability to block Amazon Logistics as a carrier, so you can protect your customer experience. Or for the Amazon Logistics piece, you can only ship using USPS or UPS for the marketplaces that care about that. And then lastly, at the time an order ships, a tracking number will be generated and can be sent to your customers so they know when they can expect their order.
Yep, and that, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, but this is something that can all be automated through Listing Mirror, so that you aren't having to touch every single order. We can set up the system so that all that happens is an order comes in, Amazon fills it, tracking information goes back to your buyer, your customer, and you never really have to touch the orders. So
exactly. All right. Yes. So to talk a little bit more about kind of the behind the scenes work of how our systems operate is, if you're familiar with FBA today, you'll send in your inventory through the Seller Central workflows. I believe you can also do so in Listing Mirror if you choose. And then that inventory will be routed to normally just one location, maybe a couple. And from there, we'll receive it and we'll move your inventory around the country. And again, this is all, the moving around the country part is free of charge. There's no additional fee associated with doing that. And the reason why we do it is so that we can get products close to where we think customers will buy. So people that make a lot more money than me are coming up with these crazy algorithms to say, okay, we know that, New York shoppers are going to favor this item in the month of May, and it can get that granular. So rather than you needing to manage inventory locations and spreadsheets, Amazon's going to be doing all that heavy lifting for you. And it can even get so, smart to handle weather events, so if there's, I don't know, a hurricane warning coming up, in the Southeast, we can plan accordingly to make sure we're still going to be meeting customers' promise dates. And then going back on the point I talked about, having that positive impact on Amazon revenue is, the more inventory that you have with us means that we can be in more locations. So, if you were to just use us for your FBA business, when you inbound inventory to us, we might have maybe 50% coverage across all of our fulfillment center network. But if you're sending in more inventory, that number might be pushing 80, 90%. So you're getting that really close to where customers are going to buy, and therefore they'll get a faster ship time as well.
And this is something that would also be true for just pure FBA as well, right? This is just like explaining kind of how the Amazon system works.
Right. And then if you're adding, if you have your existing Amazon business today, but then you're adding, this other whole side of your business, that means you'll probably be stocking a lot more with us. So you see even more of those benefits, when you start to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does the MCF, like let's say you're someone who's super strong in the MCF space, is Amazon also taking into account where those MCF orders are coming from in addition to what you're getting directly from your Amazon orders? Does that make sense?
In terms of placement?
Yeah, in terms of placement, like volume of product and things like that.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think we kind of externalize any of that algorithm, so it's a bit of a black box. But that certainly goes into it. Yeah. Like if we see, just as one example, like for the state of Colorado, for a while we were shipping COVID test kits for them. So we knew that, okay, every order is going to be delivered to somewhere in the state of Colorado. So the system can pick up on that over time.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
All right. And then as we talked about, Amazon maintains a high performance bar. And so we'll display a promise date for every order, and we're making sure that we hit that promise date on over 97% of orders is our bar. And then, I'll focus on, so in a later slide, we'll go over pricing, and that pricing will be specific to the US, but we have MCF available in 10 countries. And actually, as of, I hope I'm able to share, as of about 2 weeks ago, we just shipped our first MCF order in India as well. So we're actually now going to be available soon in 11 countries. I'm sure there's a bit of a wait list for India at the moment, but soon that'll be open to everyone.
Cool. And we'll talk a little bit later about how some functionalities that you can use in Listing Mirror for implementing this international shipping strategy using MCF as well, which is pretty exciting.
For sure. So just to kind of summarize some of the benefit slides that we went over. Sorry, I lost my place here. But basically, MCF will bring fast and reliable fulfillment at a low cost to businesses of all sizes. And we see that can have a positive impact, not only on the marketplaces where we're going to be shipping your orders for, but also for your Amazon business as well. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just saying, okay, cool. Now we know it's a good idea. So now how does
Yep,
it exactly work?
exactly. Yeah. So just to go over this slide is pretty straightforward, but basically if you're already an FBA seller today, you're doing steps 1 through 3 already. So if you wanted to turn on MCF for the first time, there's no different inbound workflow that's separate from FBA. So it's all just going to be the same. The only difference might be you're inbounding slightly more inventory to us. So then once your inventory is sitting in our warehouses, then a customer will order your product. And again, that could come from your Shopify channel, that could come from your Etsy channel, eBay channel, wherever that order is coming from. Listing Mirror does the lifting to push that order into Amazon. And as Aaron talked about, that can be fully hands off the wheel, where once you get your settings configured within Listing Mirror, then that process can happen automatically. We'll get started on the fulfillment process for that order. So we'll pick, pack, and ship it. And then a tracking number will be generated at that time of shipping. And then Listing Mirror will grab that tracking number and feed it to the proper channel, so that you're meeting marketplace requirements, and also just customers know when they're getting their orders. And step 6 is obviously optional. So there is the ability to also do returns with MCF, where you can, if a customer doesn't want it, you could choose to send them a label and they can send it back into FBA.
Yeah, which I know is pretty complicated because it, at least from our experience, it ends up that, you have a customer that's like outside of your normal workflow that you then have to like figure out how to get stuff to them. But we are working, I think we're pretty close to having a good solution for this so that you can process your return
Oh, cool.
basically through Listing Mirror, or at the very least that you would just have like one button to click to go and get that shipping label to send to the customer. So hopefully we're close to getting a better system in place, but it is a really nice option that you can set up returns this way. This works especially well for larger agencies who who have lots of Amazon brands under their name or whatever, and they are running a huge operation. They need more of a system in place because they don't have a local place to return to. So having the option to make returns, I think, is super important.
For sure. And that said, it is completely optional if it goes back to us at all.
Yeah.
So if you have a oiled machine in terms of how your returns are working today, just because we ship the order doesn't mean it has to come back to us. So you could just keep your existing returns process in place if that works best for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is kind of totally an aside, but a thing that I see a lot of customers doing, or a lot of my clients doing, a lot of our clients doing, is they will just process the refund, and they will just let the buyer keep it because it's less hassle and ends up actually costing their business way less for them to just keep it. So that's another option as well, I guess.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely could be. All right. And apologies for the grainy quality. I copied this from one of your help guides. But as we talked about on step 4 on the previous slide, a customer is going to order your product. How does that get to us? The answer there is Listing Mirror. So Listing Mirror will allow you to automate that process of sending the order to Amazon, or doesn't have to be Amazon, could be another location based on your preferences for fulfillment. So orders from any channel will route to us, and once shipped, Listing Mirror grabs that tracking information and pushes it back to the channel. So we have more Listing Mirror slides after I'm kind of done with my portion, where we'll go through how you would set this up in your Listing Mirror UI.
Yep. Cool.
Okay. So again, these speeds are specific to the US, but we offer 3 ship speeds today that you can choose to offer to your customers. So depending on your requirements, you might offer all 3, make standard kind of the lowest cost or free option with options to bump up to a faster ship speed, or you might just choose to route everything at 1 ship speed. So completely in your control what you choose to offer customers. But just to speak to our SLAs a little bit, so standard, we're aiming to ship that order within 2 days, where expedite and priority we're shipping within 24 hours. And then the delivery time frame for standard is 3 to 5 business days. expedited jumps up to 2 business days, and priority would be 1 business day. And also one thing we note, just going back to having more inventory with us, the more inventory you have with us, a lot of times we are going to just even beat what these SLAs are showing here. So for some of our largest customers who, have just inventory all over the place, they're getting some standard orders delivered in 1 day. So a lot of times we can beat that.
Yeah, and for sure we've seen this too, especially during like I would say like maybe like the first 6 months of the pandemic. Shipping speeds got really slow for a while, and it was kind of challenging because we would have eBay sellers who still had the 2-day shipping displayed on their eBay listings, but then Amazon was just shipping things so slowly because volume had just exploded, I'm guessing. And I remember getting like, well, why aren't you telling them that things are getting to them slower? But it's a whole, combo of like, you both have to set up your eBay settings and your Amazon settings so that they're both reflective of what actually is happening for the customer, which can be kind of a little bit confusing, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I like seeing this, these numbers like this. I think it's really helpful. I might like steal this from you just to like display to people who ask questions about shipping speed. Cool.
For sure. Yeah. And the only thing I'll say, back in kind of 2020, everybody's supply chain was just uprooted. The biggest question for us, or the biggest challenge, I should say, is capacity, where everybody was selling a lot more than they used to. So everybody's inbounding a lot more than they used to. And we started to kind of hit our cap. So since I think it was 2019 or 2020, we doubled our fulfillment space over the course of, whatever that was, 3-ish years, which to me is just mind boggling. I have no idea how they did it, but our capacity is in a lot better place now, as you probably see, with your limits, if you're an Amazon seller today. So we're, a lot back, or we're definitely back to our kind of steady state, hitting these SLAs.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. So we'll go through specifics on pricing, but just to kind of talk about the model of it, it was designed to be simple and predictable. So you always know what you're charged for fulfillment. And we're also just one combined fee. So we noticed, kind of in the competitive landscape, that there were a lot of confusing fees when it came to fulfillment. So like, how many zones are you shipping? Are you shipping to a residential address versus a business address? That would come with different price points. And also, maybe my shipping cost is only $6, but then they're going to tack on a $2 pick fee or something like that. So we wanted to make everything easy to digest and just easy to calculate. So our fees are just one fee that will include pick, pack, and ship, all baked into it. And shipping to the lower 48 states, it's not going to matter how far you're shipping. So, if we're shipping from a Seattle fulfillment center to a, Tallahassee, Florida address, it's going to be the same cost as shipping, local Seattle to Seattle. Yeah.
Anything else on this slide?
Nope, I'm good here. Cool. Okay. So to talk a little bit about how you will go through and determine your pricing, first step is to determine your item size tier. Little similar to kind of the FBA size tiers, if you're familiar with those, but our pricing does come at a different rate than FBA. So this would be a new kind of exercise for you to determine your MCF rates versus your FBA. And main reason for that is that we're not charging a referral fee for MCF orders. So for FBA, you have that fulfillment fee component, and then Amazon's also going to take kind of their 15% or so for commission charge, where for MCF, we're not doing that. Since we're not taking credit for the sale, we're just kind of the shipping leg of the journey. So yeah, so here's the size tier. This is also listed on our website, so you don't need to memorize anything here. And then we can move on to the next one. And so once you've determined your size tier, then the shipping costs will depend on a few different factors. So basically just how quickly are you going to ship it? Obviously, as you go from standard to expedited to priority, it'll get more and more costly to do that. And then also number of units in the order, which is also some way where we split from FBA. where for FBA, if a customer buys 2 of your items, your cost is just going to be purely linear. So if it was $10 per unit, then it'll be $20 for a 2-unit order. Where for MCF, you actually are getting multi-unit discounts applied. So if we're looking at this, let's just take the top line or top row to be simple here. So a 1-unit order for the small standard 6 ounce or less tier would be $7.15 to pick, pack, and ship. If a customer were to buy quantity of 2 of items that both fell in that tier, then your order would become $4.92 plus $4.92. So you're getting, up to 50% discounts as you go higher in unit count. And only other call out is I kind of shortened this standard tier just to be visually appealing. We also can ship oversized items as well. It just didn't fit into this table.
Okay. Yeah, this is probably, it just occurred to me as well. Like this would be a really good thing, especially I'm thinking for eBay. I mean, also for, your own website as well, to offer volume discounts because, you are also getting a discount on the other end as well. So it both looks good for your customers, but also then you aren't just paying out of pocket for those additional fees because you're actually getting a bit of a break on this side too.
Yeah. And on that point, what I see a lot of our customers doing is, when you're, trying to ship for your website, grow your website's revenue, one of the biggest levers you have is average order value. So if you can offer free shipping at a certain price point, that'll incentivize customers to add more to their cart. So a lot, may do, depending on the price of your items, $40, $50 or higher, you get free shipping. Works well for a lot of people.
Yeah. I was going to say, as a consumer, I am like the biggest sucker for those kind of ploys, like $75 and you can have free shipping. I'm going to find more things to throw in my cart. So,
exactly.
If anyone is, looking for customers in my demographic, then that's the way to do it. Let me tell you.
Yeah. No one wants to pay for shipping.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably have Amazon to blame for that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. So now for the next 3 slides, I have 3 different case studies that I think kind of go back to some of the benefits we were talking about at the beginning of the presentation. Cool. So first one, and I think this one especially holds true for what Listing Mirror brings to the table as well. The theme is marketplace expansion. So in this example, California Design Den, they were a strong FBA seller. They decided to open their own D2C channel, and they saw 25% growth in 3 months because their inventory was already all housed somewhere. They had their supply chain figured out. They just needed to go and list their products on, in this case, their website. But where Listing Mirror can help even further than that, is if you have all of your listings on Amazon and you haven't sold on eBay for the first time, then Listing Mirror can make that process easy for you. So grab your Amazon details from each of your products, list the right ones or whichever ones you want on the eBay channel. And again, there's no additional supply chain headache that you need to worry about, as all the inventory is already sitting with Amazon. You just need a way to get that order from eBay to us, which in this case would be Listing Mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there are so many things to learn about selling on a new marketplace. So, what we have said for a long time is part of the reason why Amazon sellers are a great fit for Listing Mirror is because the amount of energy that you have to invest in becoming a strong Amazon seller usually is a strong indicator of whether or not the complexity of our software is going to work for you, because it is, as probably most of you here know, there's kind of a steep learning curve to get it all to fit together and work well for your business. And so, the same is going to be true when you move to these other marketplaces. Yes, you can make it work, and yes, you can be successful. But if we can, between Listing Mirror and Amazon, take out a part of that, of dealing with the order management side of things, then it allows you to focus on, really, working on what does your listing data look like? How are you running ads? What kind of customers are you trying to gain from whatever that new traffic specific sources, so it's definitely, I think it's definitely a huge relief to offload
Right.
some of that, right? So
Yeah, and I can't say I've gone through this in the past, from a personal standpoint, but just if I were to venture a guess, if I were some entrepreneur looking to grow my business, I would think figuring out supply chain is probably the last thing I want to try to do. Like, I
yeah,
want to spend more time focusing on the growth initiatives. How can I, improve my ad spend so that I'm driving more volume to my website and things like that. It's a little bit more exciting than, how do I
yes.
save a nickel and dime on shipping? Yeah.
Right. Yes. I can imagine it feels a little bit like cleaning toilets when you own, like
Mhm.
a brick and mortar, right? It's like, it's not the thing that you want to be spending your time on. It's boring, but it has to be done. And so yeah, if we can help you take away part of that's amazing for us and for you.
100%. Yeah. All right. So for the next one, wanted to feature our seller, Dragon Glassware, and this time with the theme of supply chain efficiency. So Dragon Glassware had been using another 3PL that was based just out of a single location before making the switch to multi-channel fulfillment. And on top of being just based out of one location, they also needed to upload sales information for their orders to ship out. So not only was it, not set up efficiently in terms of where inventory was located, but also introduced a manual step for them. So as you can imagine, their switch to MCF was a bit of a no-brainer, and they immediately improved their delivery speeds by 50% and reduced their logistics costs by 35%. And again, as when we say holistically logistics costs, it's more than just how much are my orders to get from the warehouse to my customer's address. You also have to think about, when you're moving inventory around, say with,
Mhm.
LTL shipments, what's the cost of doing that? And if you're shipping your inventory, be it from China or from somewhere domestic, into multiple locations, you're introducing multiple costs associated with doing that. So if you can consolidate those inbound shipments, send them all into Amazon as an example, or more into Amazon, there's likely some other inbound freight shipping costs that you're going to save there as well, which is what this seller saw.
Sweet.
All right. And last case study to highlight is our seller Encha with the theme of automation, which again, Listing Mirror can play a huge part. This seller in particular was not using Listing Mirror, but the idea holds true. So they were selling just on their Shopify website outside of Amazon, and they used one of the connector apps to do that automation of routing orders into Amazon. So that allowed, as we just talked about, spend more time on growing their business rather than worrying about facilitating shipping. And one other, I think I haven't mentioned on this slide, is that I see a lot of success with merchants who also utilize some type of subscription app, if your product is the right fit for that sort of thing, as MCF is a great tool to use when you're using a subscription app, because you're just going to have those routine orders, repeat customers, and Amazon's going to reliably deliver it to them in a timely fashion. So a lot of our users are using some kind of subscription app, and no official endorsement, but I think Recharge is probably the one that I run into the most.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that as we went through this. Like, I use Subscribe and Save for a lot of things on Amazon, and I would imagine that's
Mhm.
not a hard thing to set up other places. So that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
I think, yeah,
That was
perfect.
your last slide. Are we good to move
Yep.
into kind of how to set this up on Listing Mirror? And I'm hopeful. I've been trying to ignore questions just so I can like focus on the topic at hand. But I'm hopeful that we've got some good questions coming through here as well. So I'm going to real quickly just run through. In case you can't tell, I'm a huge advocate of MCF. I think it's an incredible tool, and I've seen so many businesses using Listing Mirror grow exponentially through the use of Listing Mirror. In fact, there's a couple case studies out there specifically that talk about how using Listing Mirror, has grown their business. So I know that there's one that was recently posted about like international Amazon MCF
Mhm.
orders, and then another one that was like a few years old. But I think Listing Mirror I should have looked up these numbers ahead of time, but I know that we grew his business by, I think, like 800% in, I'm going to say 18 months or something like that. So we know that this is a huge factor in, being able to grow businesses, past what you're doing on Amazon, which is, I think, what, a lot of sellers are wanting to do, because you're wanting to kind of, create your own thing and make a name for yourself, and whatever that looks like for you. So enabling you to do that is what we want, for sure. So now we're really just going to focus on practically, what does it look like to get this set up in your Listing Mirror account? If you are not yet using Listing Mirror, I'll just start by saying getting set up in the tool is very simple. And just in the last few weeks, we've really simplified our process. So if you have looked at Listing Mirror in the past, and just haven't pulled the trigger for whatever reason, the biggest thing that we heard for like probably the last 2 years is just that, like, it's just too hard to get set up. And so the way that we have decided to answer that is by implementing a more or less forced onboarding process, which I'm onboarding people. So I know the software pretty well, and I also can get the help that I need if I'm not exactly sure. But we will force you to go through that onboarding process, but it doesn't take very long, and it ensures that things like this, things like getting your inventory sources set up correctly and all of that, will be done how you want them done, so that you aren't accidentally doing something to your business. We understand the weight that our software carries for your business, and we want to make sure that things are done right. So anyway, so this is specifically how you will set up your MCF fulfillment, or your MCF system, once you are in your account. So inside of each of your channel integrations, so this would be for all of your marketplaces, there's going to be a tab here. I think you guys can see my my cursor, right? Yep. So there's going to be a tab within your settings called inventory. And on that tab is where you will see 2 different columns, a green column and a red column. What you want to make sure is that your FBA warehouse is enabled. That's the first thing that you want to do. That tells Listing Mirror that you want us to send the quantity on hand at Amazon to this channel. So in this case, we're looking at eBay integration settings. The other thing to note here is that the placement is really important, because this tells us, do you first want to fill with your warehouse inventory or with FBA inventory? So every single order that comes in, Listing Mirror is looking at it and saying, okay, where does this order belong? Which inventory source are we reducing inventory from? And then once we know which inventory source we're reducing from, are we also then supposed to go through and fill the order? If it's something that you're just filling at your own warehouse, chances are it's just going to like a ship station or something like that, where you're just filling the order and handling that on your own. But if it's an FBA, or if the inventory source is to MCF/FBA, then we will be able to then take that order and send it through to your buyer. So what I did here is I just put a bunch of different arrows so that I can very quickly scroll down the page. So if we're looking at the top, this yellow arrow, this arrow at the top, and just to clarify, this section that we're looking at now lives right below the green and red buttons that I previously showed you. So right below this section, you're going to see all of these like check marks. And so I'm just going to walk through what all of them do, and hopefully to kind of enlighten you as to what the options are when you're setting up your MCF settings. So the first one is update quantity. If Listing Mirror is going to be shipping your Amazon orders, you also want us to handle your inventory. Come on, there we go. You also want us to be controlling your inventory. And so make sure that you have us updating your quantity to this specific marketplace, so that we can send out the actual available quantity on hand that's at Amazon. The second, the blue line here, the light blue line, is max quantity. So max quantity works really well if you are on a marketplace where perhaps you want to fake some scarcity. Maybe it's something that like sells really quickly, or you want to show that like there's super high demand for it or whatnot. Or if you have a smaller, we see this specifically for eBay. If you have a smaller limit on your account, so let's say that you can only list $50,000 or only list 100 lists or 100 products or something like that. Setting a max quantity allows you to hopefully add a wider variety of products, because you can say like, okay, I only have 2 in stock when you really have 500 or what have you. So that's super useful when you're setting up your each channel. And then the second one is holdback quantity. This is, just under max quantity. Second one, what this one does is if there is quantity on hand that falls below a certain limit, then we will not display any quantity. So if you have 10 in stock, then we would just only display 8. If you have a holdback quantity of 2. The intention of this is if it's something that does sell in high volume and or you don't want to take as much risk with potentially overselling and then having to cancel orders, this is something that you can implement so that your inventory is only showing up on your actual inventory level is only showing up on certain marketplaces or only showing up on Amazon, and you're using Listing Mirror to manage that. The red line, then now we're getting into more MCF specific settings. So the red arrow here, autofill MCF orders. So this is the part that we've kind of been talking about, that Listing Mirror can automate this process for you so that you never have to go in and manually click anything for the order to be sent off to Amazon. So if you are a seller who doesn't want to touch the orders or wants to touch as few orders as you can, this is what you would do. You would check this box and that would tell us automatically send orders to Amazon. If you don't check this box, we will still assign orders to the FBA / merchant fulfilled inventory source, but you will just in your orders, on your orders page, you would then just manually go and click the fill button. Or is that what it's called, Matt? I know the page just changed, so I can't remember exactly. There should be like a fill button or something along those lines that you would go and click.
Yes. Yes, correct.
Okay. So there are some sellers that choose to do that as well. And it's nice to know that it's an option, because let's say that you do have inventory at your warehouse and you have it at Amazon, and maybe like an order comes through later in the day and you don't have, maybe your warehouse workers are gone and you just want to send it through to Amazon. You could still enable that FBA inventory source, but not autofill, and then just manually choose to autofill when you want to. So that is definitely an option, just depending on how I just like you to know and think about all of the potential options that you might have with a setting like this. The green line, now we're getting into some of the I don't know what to call it, the smarts, I guess, that Amazon has put around being able to fill your non-Amazon orders with Amazon inventory, and that is both block Amazon logistics, which is where the green arrow is, and then the arrow right below it, the gray arrow, Amazon blank box. So were you working with us at that time, Adam, when we were putting together the block Amazon logistics feature? I thought so.
Yeah, and you guys were the first to implement it.
Yeah, so I remember the feedback was like, whoa, we didn't expect you to get that done so fast. So,
yeah.
But basically what this does is it tells Amazon to fill the orders from this marketplace with a regular carrier, so UPS or FedEx or something like that. I'm guessing there's probably a different fee structure for this. Is that right?
For
block
Amazon logistics. Correct. Yes. So
Okay.
for any order we receive with that, it'll have a 5% higher MCF fee.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. That's nice to know. To 5%, I can remember that. Yeah, because I get asked that sometimes, like, oh, well, I want to do this. It costs more. How much more is it? So 5%, I can definitely remember
just
that.
5%.
Yep. So that's the first one. So we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I'll just say it. The most common marketplace that this is used for is Walmart. So we do have a lot of sellers that are using this feature for Walmart. It is not foolproof. Walmart is trying their hardest to figure out things how they will. But that is what this setting works really well for, and what a lot of our sellers are using it for. So I'll say that so you don't have to. And then for Amazon Blank Box, so we talked about this a little bit last night. So it used to be, and you'll see that if you go into your account, you'll see the notes below it say something about a beta program. But this is no longer a beta program. Everyone is enrolled in the Blank Box system. So if you select this in your account, then Amazon will fill your orders with a blank box instead of one that says Amazon on it, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And let me pause on that point first.
Sure.
To say, so how we have blank box inventory split versus FBA is basically blank box inventory will be a subset of your overall FBA inventory. So if you have 100 total units in stock in FBA, 85 of them might be in a blank box enabled fulfillment center. That number is getting so close to 100%, at least in the US, because we've launched in so many fulfillment centers over the last 2 years or so. So now, even if you don't check that box there that says Amazon has to ship this in a blank box, 96% of the time or more, it will ship in a blank box.
Okay.
All that this check will do is get that number to 100%. So let's say only ship with MCF if blank box inventory exists, which is almost always true now, at least for the US.
Yeah, I was going to say the last time I checked in on this, it was only like an 85 or 90% like success rate with getting orders filled in blank box. So
the only one that was lagging behind for a while was for oversized items, as they have their own fulfillment network. But now, even for that, we're getting close to about 90% blank box.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good to know. And are there additional fees for blank box as well?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, that is free, or no additional charge, I should say.
Okay. So I just have like a super practical question, again, as a consumer, not a business owner, but the boxes that come to my house that I order from Amazon directly, like the Amazon Prime boxes that I get, those always have the Prime tape on them. Is the tape like, is that the part that is not on a blank box, or what is, or is it actually like the Amazon logo on the cardboard box part of it?
Yeah, it'll have no Amazon branding. I wish I had an example to show you, but it's very almost, boring looking, where it's going to be kind of like a corrugated box.
Okay.
This is not an exact blank box shipment. And then the tape itself will just be like a neutral brown beige color.
Okay.
So it won't have the kind of the Prime logo on it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because that is something I get asked, is like, well, how does the box look? I'm like, I'm not sure. So that's helpful to know. And then so that's the gray line that we're looking at. Okay, and then the last line on here is auto split fulfillment. I actually think that Matt might be able to speak to this a little bit better than I can, but I know a little bit of the functionality is specifically that when you get an order in from, let's say, your Shopify site, okay, you get an order for 5 different products, 3 are at Amazon and 2 of them are in your own warehouse. My understanding, and Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, is that if auto split fulfillment is checked, then Listing Mirror will automatically split your order into 2 orders. Half of the order will go to Amazon to be filled, and then the other half will be sent to whatever, whether you're using ShipStation or another service to pick and pack and ship out the order that way. Are there any other functionalities to it that I'm missing there, Matt, or that would be helpful for people to know?
No, that is correct.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure, because I notice on some of the text on like the help text under here talks about how you do have to be like on a specific pricing tier within Listing Mirror. But I'd be happy to enable this for anybody if for some reason you can't access it. So just let me know if you are using Listing Mirror and you want to use this and you can't because it's grayed out. Let me know and I can activate it for you. Okay. And then here are just a few other notes about automation possibilities, I guess, with using MCF and Listing Mirror. So the first one is one that we definitely have some sellers doing, and that's SKU level inventory source selection. That sounds like very fancy words, but essentially what it allows you to do is select specific SKUs in your catalog for a specific marketplace to fill with FBA or MCF, and to ignore the rest of the SKUs. So you can definitely do this in Listing Mirror. Is it the most straightforward way to do things? No, but if you are able to handle the additional workload that this will, add to your process, it does work. It is something that you can do. I have a few sellers who use it specifically for just filling all of their very super high volume orders with MCF, and then the rest of the orders they fill out of their own warehouse. So that's what this would allow you to do. The difference between this and setting it at the channel level, remember, if we go back to this slide here, basically instead of enabling it for the channel, you would be enabling it for individual SKUs. So Matt would love to help you set that up, I'm sure, because it's his favorite thing. We just kind of laugh about it because the page that it's on is super, it's like in our old branding, and it's a little bit clunky to use, but it does function. So
it does get the job.
Do we have a spreadsheet for that? It does do the job, yes. Do we have a bulk way to do that? That's probably what.
Yeah, it's a better function for opting out a few SKUs for an inventory source rather than like, I just want a few SKUs of this inventory source, because that means you got to uncheck everything and like, little
if you
tedious.
have thousands of products.
But if you're just trying to make a few exceptions,
it's
super useful.
Yeah.
And just to say where I would run into that use case the most is, if somebody's selling on Amazon, but in Amazon FBA, they have just their best sellers, kind of like the 80-20 rule. But then on your website, you might have your entire catalog. So with that SKU level inventory source selection, then you can say, okay, route these specific SKUs to MCF, but keep the rest of them come into my existing warehouse.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about that, because I think actually what you're talking about, you wouldn't even have to use the SKU level inventory source, because if you don't carry those,
then it would just say zero.
If you don't carry those SKUs at MCF anyway, or at Amazon anyway, then you wouldn't have to do anything except just enable the FBA inventory source for the channel, because we would only be able to fill those the SKUs that are at Amazon, and the rest of them we would automatically just send to whoever your other warehouse is. So that would just work out of the box, which could be super nice as well. And kind of along the same lines, for any sellers who aren't using Listing Mirror yet, you do not have to you don't have to create or use your full catalog in Listing Mirror for any of these things. You can use Listing Mirror for only filling your MCF orders, and then for the rest of everything else, just kind of ignore it. We can do that too. So there's a lot of flexibility there. The second point here, so international MCF capabilities. I have a client, he might even be here today, and he specifically uses Listing Mirror to fill Etsy orders across the world. Etsy, and I also think Shopify. And he fills his non-Amazon orders with through MCF, and Listing Mirror is able to take the order, see who the buyer is, and then we know through again, people that are much smarter than me, my business partners specifically, who have put together this system to be able to know which warehouse to pull the inventory from, and then and we do that based on basically the cost of the shipping. And then send the order off to the buyer wherever they may be. So you can also use Listing Mirror to do that. It's very, very simple to set up. As long as you have inventory at those, at all of the different, or even some of the different Amazon MCF locations, then you absolutely can do that through Listing Mirror. The third thing I'll mention, we've talked a little bit about shipping speed and kind of configuring all of that through Listing Mirror. Matt is actually our resident expert on making sure that shipping speeds on the marketplace match what we are telling Amazon. And we have a whole bunch of intelligence built around it, in addition to the things that we just know and have figured out through our experience. But you will set up your shipping speeds for most integrations. You'll set up your shipping speed in Listing Mirror to tell Amazon at what speed to fill the order. So there's kind of a little bit of work that goes into doing it, but we can fill with the standard, expedited, and what's the other one? One day? Priority, maybe it's called that.
Priority.
Anyway, yeah. So there's the 3 different standards there. And so we can definitely help you get all of that set up through Listing Mirror. Matt, are there any other like automation things that you thought of before? I mean, we can totally. Oh, I didn't even realize the time.
I know. I was just about to mention.
Okay.
I think we should just jump into Q&A.
Yes. Yeah, let's do it.
I don't have
Let's
much
do
else
it.
to add to what you guys.
So I see that you guys have been answering questions, which is amazing. Matt, are there any? Let's just take 3 to 5 questions
I got some good ones
that didn't get answered. Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Where is it? Chris actually had a pretty interesting question. He sells high-end watches. So he was curious about the. Let's see. Obviously, small. So they're small items, right? And they're high value items. Can you talk about security at warehouses and how I am protected from items going missing?
How I'm protected from items going missing. I'm trying to think if we have an exact blurb on that. But basically, you'll always have access to see like what exact inventory you have on hand. So if you have 100 units of stock, that number will be reflected there. And if inventory were ever lost or say damaged, when it's coming inbound to the warehouse, then you can request reimbursement for those items. They will, probably ask for several levels of proof of what you sent in and things like that. So I'm sorry, I don't have a perfect answer to tell you on the security. Sorry, give me 1 second. On the security component, but I'll follow up offline with Aaron to see if I can find if we have a blurb on that. But I mean, obviously we're shipping iPhones every day and stuff like that. So they hold the workers to a decently high standard on that.
Another one from Chris. So half of his products are not approved for Amazon sale. Is he able to send those into FBA shipping for MCF, or would they kick back on that?
Yeah, so it depends on why you can't list the item on Amazon. So if it's a prohibited item like a weapon or alcohol or something like that, then we're not going to be able to ship it with MCF. So the same kind of product restrictions would apply, FBA versus MCF. If it's a product gating example, let's take like iPhone as an example. If you tried to list iPhone and it says, no, you're not allowed to list this brand. One workaround for you is to sign up for a supply chain portal account. And when I say that, so if you're an Amazon FBA seller today, you operate in Seller Central. So in Seller Central, you're going to be controlling your Amazon business, and you can also ship using MCF from that. If you don't sell on Amazon and just purely want to use MCF, or maybe even buy with Prime, if you're familiar with that program, then the supply chain portal account lets you get around brand gating. So if it is brand gating, which is why you're blocked, then the supply chain portal account can help you out. And I could drop a link to where you sign up for that.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that too. Another use case I just thought of is sellers who are undergoing review or suspension of any kind. Sometimes, they're still looking for a way to get their product out the door. So would that be another case where you could, still sell your products or still sell, the stuff that you have sitting at Amazon through other channels while you cannot sell it on Amazon?
It can vary.
Okay.
Again, depending on the reason. If it's blocked for a reason that says like this item is not safe, then sometimes you can't ship it through MCF either. But sometimes if it's just like, trying to think of one example, like detail page removed, like maybe you had, I don't know, you mentioned another brand name that you weren't allowed to mention in your detail page or something like that. Then we can still ship it through MCF. An easy way to kind of test to see like if you have an ASIN that's in that state is to go to our create MCF order screen, which is where you would just place orders manually. And right there, you'll be able to see if your quantity is fulfillable or not. So you can get there at Seller Central, just go to orders and then create MCF order. That's kind of our manual screen.
Cool.
Let's see, another one. I just lost it. This is from Chong. In my experience, small and light items usually cost a lot more with Amazon than the standard seller fulfilled USPS. Will Amazon lower the prices for smaller items, specifically the small and light items?
Yeah, so, and I'm assuming you're using that lingo because you might already use our small and light program with FBA.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we don't have a similar program for MCF. So if items do fall kind of in that very small, something that would fit into like an envelope, then sometimes we won't be the most competitive option out there. That said, make sure you're comparing apples to apples in terms of what delivery experience you're getting. Are you getting a tracking number with your shipments? But yeah, if it's something very small, sometimes we could be cost prohibitive, and also something cheap as well. Like, I don't know, under $5.
Right. Yeah. For sure. Matt, how about one more? I would love to keep going, but
let's see. Is there excuse me, this is from Jonathan. Is there any data on how many sellers have all of their inventory going directly to Amazon versus how many are split between sending them to FBA and then shipping them themselves? Didn't know if there's data on
that. Let me think data on that. And again, when we say FBA MCF, like that's kind of just one and the same. Yep. So when you're inbounding to Amazon, that is, it could be for either. If the question is more like, on a point I made earlier about, sending all of your inventory to Amazon versus sending some and sending some to another 3PL. I don't think we have data into that because we actually wouldn't even really be able to.
Like, how would you know? Right.
If we wanted to.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But in my experience, I've seen sellers do it both ways. It's just as, what makes sense for you. Like, there's a question in there on, sorry, I keep getting another call. There's a question there on, like, if I have a lot of slow moving SKUs, like, is that something I should send to Amazon? And that's going to kind of vary for you case by case. There are long-term storage fees that'll start to hit at, I believe now it's 9 months, and then it goes up at a year. So if it's something that you're not moving every 9 months, it might not make sense for you to send it inbound.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we had another question that came through earlier by email, someone that reached out to me ahead of time, and he was asking about kind of basically like there have been cases where on non-Amazon channels they have gotten like dinged on their seller record because Amazon isn't filling orders as quickly as they say they will. So I think kind of this is a little bit more of like a strategic question. For this particular user, let's say, that they're filling their eBay orders with MCF and they have standard shipping set up. What should they be telling their customers on the other end as far as like what the customer should expect for lead time?
Yeah.
Is that like
a
3 to 5 day?
Yep, exactly. I think that slide we showed earlier is the best resource for that. And so if you're trying to, help your conversion on eBay or another marketplace and you want that 2-day badge or, I can't remember exactly what they call it. They, call it something to that effect. I would at least ship with the expedited ship speed. So we'll be a little bit more, but you're getting a better delivery experience, and specifically on, when that tracking number is generated, which I think is arguably more important for eBay.
Yeah, I think so too. So for anyone who has questions about, fulfillment time and, making sure that your lead time is reflective of what is actually being experienced, definitely talk to us about that, because it's possible that you think you're communicating something to your buyers that you're not. So we can definitely talk about that a little bit further. Okay, so thank you guys so much for sticking around for so long. I've been so engrossed in this that I haven't been able to that I didn't actually notice the time until we were like almost at the end of the hour. So I apologize for that. Thank you so much for hanging with us a little bit longer. I see that there are still a lot of questions and I want to keep answering them, but I also want to be respectful of people's time, and especially Adam, because I know he has other stuff coming up today. So we will stop there. I'm going to include a link to a post that was made by a colleague of mine that I saw on LinkedIn. He basically was talking about how Amazon's the cost that that a lot of people are saying it costs. Hey, Adam, you're back there.
Yeah, I tried to attach a file in the chat and it did not like it.
And it crashed.
Oh, damn it.
Whoops. We can send it out afterwards. That would totally work.
Okay. Yeah. Just to address, was it Chris? Yeah, Chris, you've asked, what are my onboarding steps if I haven't inbounded to Amazon for the first time? We have a PDF that will take you through step by step what button to press. So Aaron or someone from the Listing Mirror team can get that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what I am posting in the chat right now is just I thought a super informative post by a colleague of mine just about, I hope you guys are able to see this. I think you'll be able to, just about the benefits to using Amazon for your fulfillment center instead of having your own warehouse. And also I think specifically what he is talking about specifically is about, I think, FBA, not necessarily MCF,
right,
but just in general, how even though the costs associated are quite high, I think the guess is around like 50%, or maybe it's not a guess. I think the estimated cost is around 50% of your of the value of what you're selling. So regardless, his point is basically that it costs at least that much or more in order to do your own fulfillment, or to only have your own website, like only Shopify or something like that. So it's definitely something to consider. He posts a lot of really interesting things anyway. So if you're active on LinkedIn, he's a great person to follow for good Amazon content. And I think that's all I have from this end. Thank you guys again so much for sticking around with us a little bit long today. Anything else from you, Adam, before we sign off? And I will make sure after this also that everyone has our contact info as well. So I will go ahead and send that out when I send out the replay for you all.
Great. Yeah. And nothing else from my end. If there's additional questions that we might have missed, I did my best to look at the chat, but feel free to surface those to the Listing Mirror team and they can loop me in as necessary, and happy to help answer those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I like what Jonathan said here at the end. We do forget that time and money is saved in not fulfilling our own orders. Absolutely. Yes, because we all have too much going on.
One less thing to worry about.
Especially,
absolutely.
On Thanksgiving, do you want your team working, for the Black Friday, Cyber Monday week? Or you just want to get rid of that, let Amazon deal with it?
Yep.
Right, 100%. Right. Let Amazon overwork people. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time today, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you very much for coming, Adam.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, you bet.
Bye.
Have a good one.